You're listening to The Switch. I'm your host, Stephanie Shaw. Hey, welcome to The Switch. I'm Stephanie Shaw. I'm a multi-certified holistic nutrition coach who, after finding no success with the 18 doctors and 2 world-renowned healthcare facilities I visited, decided I needed to make a switch and take my health into my own hands. Now I'm obsessed with you getting hormonally balanced and emotionally aligned. This podcast is about education, empowerment, and simple no-cost strategies you can implement right now. I'm so excited to be here with you to talk about all things health, beauty, clean living, and mindset. Ready to take your mind and body to the next level? It's time to make the switch. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Switch. I'm so excited to be here today with Laura. Hey Laura, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Laura Martin is the founder of Healing to Happy and she is an IBS specialist. So I want to say welcome to you. This is such an interesting topic for me because I know so many family members, friends they can't get past the struggle. So I'm going to have you talk a little bit about your journey. We're going to dig deep into some questions and we're going to solve the world's problems in the next 30 minutes. Are you in?
No pressure at all.
No. So again, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your history, why you turned this pain for you into purpose. And then tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Yeah. So my journey started out about 13 years ago. Or when I was 13 years old. And that's when I was first diagnosed with depression. And then also having gut troubles along with that. So along the way, I remember being so young and my mom would be like outside the bathroom door and she'd like sing a song to me. So I could go to the bathroom and it was like this whole thing, which now I look back at it, I'm like, isn't that an indicator that something was up? And so we were chasing the two separately. So we were chasing my depression by itself, as you see often, and chasing my gut troubles by themselves. And then also I had a lot of skin issues. So my skin was super, super sensitive. So even if the belt buckle on my jeans touched my skin, I would flare up. And so we had to put clear nail polish on all of it.
Wow.
All these little indicators that I had no idea. To me, it was just like, that's my body. I'm like used to it. But because of this stuff, I had a really unhealthy relationship with my body. I was like, my brain's broken. My body's broken. I don't get it. What have you. And so I went on and I formed an eating disorder and went on about my life thinking that was normal, which is, it's not. But when that's the story you make up at your head with such an early age, you just kind of carry on with that. And so I did a lot of damage to my body, like a lot. And then as I moved forward, I never really switched out of that for a long time. And then I went on to university and I made peace with my first enemy, which was my brain. And I went on to study psychology and that whole route. And then my last year of university, my mom actually unexpectedly passed away.
Oh.
And so instead of doing the thing of processing trauma and emotion and all that kind of stuff, I ended up moving to Asia and running away from my problems. And the thing with that is when you run away, your problems are still there. Yeah. And I say this because this traumatic experience led me down another path of self-sabotage, got into addiction, got into overconsumption, really took out abuse on my body. And because of these nudges that I wasn't listening to early on in my life, and because of the abuse and all this kind of stuff and the traumas, my body just was like, we're tired. We're done. Like we're done here. You weren't listening. We're done.
Yeah.
And so it just basically threw up on me and was like, this is what you get. Like, it was like, we're done. So I had IBS. I had, anxiety, depression. I had, my hair was falling out. I lost my period for 5 years. All these things. But see, like me, I was like, okay, so I was studying nutrition. I went on to make peace with my other enemy. And then I was studying to become a gut specialist and I got all that kind of stuff. Still couldn't figure out my stuff. And I was like, you know what? It's kind of fine though. Like surface level, I'm fine. Right. And it wasn't until the vanity aspect got involved where like this weird rash took over my entire body, took over my entire face. had no idea. And then I was like, oh, I should probably start listening now.
Yeah.
I should probably.
That's what happens with we as women sometimes. Like, oh wait, I can't fit into the jeans, and I'm all out.
I should start listening. So I went on this rabbit hole and I tried everything in the book, right? Like I did, as I was studying, I was my own guinea pig, which was super fun.
Right.
But I was doing all the stuff of like eliminations, restrictions, dieting, medications, the whole shebang, right? Nothing was working. Nothing could we couldn't figure me out. My blood levels were just like normal, but like I felt like garbage. And so finally I was sitting in my office with my naturopath and she like looked at me and she was like, do you want to talk about how your IBS is connected to your depression? And I was like, huh?
What?
Like I knew about the whole gut brain connection. We had studied that, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh, that's it. I was so gung-ho on food. I was so laser focused on it, but also that was my eating disorder creeping in, right? Like that was the control on food and all this kind of stuff. And so we got to this whole thing and I dove down that rabbit hole. And as life would have, it's like my background in psychology, my foreground in nutrition kind of came together and made this baby. And I was able to move forward and heal my body of every single thing based off of these practices, but also understanding that what I was doing was just another form of an eating disorder for me. Like everything that was for healing your gut is about restriction and elimination and removing and where it's like, well, I just went through recovery for that. So I can't really do that, but I really want to have a poop. Like that would be really awesome if I could do that. Like that's all I want. And it wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, so went that route. And I was like, oh, food just like wasn't the issue. And so now that's the route I take with my clients and my programs and all that kind of stuff. It's understanding you can't just chase these things separately. It's these little nudges that were probably happening over time that you weren't listening to. And then you start to work your way from there.
Yeah, that is so powerful because part of my story is my story is, I was in New Orleans walking down Torch Bourbon Street and I felt numbness in my jaw. Yeah, that happened. But if I started to think about, a couple of years ago, my hair fell out and then I had to have unexplained surgery. And then I had rapid heartbeat. And then, so you're right. Your body is telling you a story, and let the two of us tell you guys that you need to listen before something big happens. I ended up like only going to work and a few other things for like 2 years straight because I couldn't function. And you said you had the rash. So your body is so smart. Talk to those of us or to people who don't understand what IBS really is or what that even means, because it's like the new jargon that everyone's throwing out. Oh, I have IBS, and I'm not saying it to be disrespectful to anyone, but a lot of times I don't think people understand what it really is. So talk to us about that.
Oh yeah. So IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. So irritable, something's irritated, bowel in your colon, syndrome, you're having symptoms. But really what it means is what like the joke in the gut health world is like at the end of IBS is BS. Like, because you've gone through all the tests, right? Like you've done the tests, you've done the things, you've gone through that whole protocol. And that's usually what people end up. It's not like, oh, we have minor bloating. It's like, I've had scopes in funny places. I've done the elimination diets. I've taken so many tests. I could do it myself at this point. Like you're at that point.
Right.
And doctors basically go, we don't really know. There you go. Exactly. And you sit there and you're like, well, that's literally your job. So please help me. Like, I don't know either.
Yeah.
And so that's what IBS is. And this can come in different forms. It can come in constipation, which is what I had, or diarrhea. So IBS-C, IBS-D, or IBS-M, which is a mix of the two. And so you'll see people, so you'll see people that I see it all the time where it's like it started with constipation, then it went to diarrhea, and now it's the two mixing together. And they're like, what the heck is my body trying to do? Like, I don't know. Yeah. And so that's when we really got to look at it. And they're like, I've cut things out. Like at the point where it was like, I had cut out, I don't even know how many, 13 different food groups. I was drinking smoothies and eating soup. Like that's all I could tolerate. 30 pounds underweight. Like there was just like all this stuff, because IBS gets to a point where it's not about like losing weight or like that kind of vanity stuff. It's like, I literally can't eat food. And so I'm losing weight at such a large weight, like, or a large, like quick speed, right? Because I'm so afraid of food.
Right.
And that's where we get, and that's the fear of the body.
Yeah. And so and for those of you who may be going through it, I also know people who they can't eat at all, but they're not losing any weight. Like they're still holding on to some of that weight. So it impacts people very, very differently. And you have to start to listen and think of that gut mind connection. So yeah, I like that a lot. I know that you talk about, and you alluded to this, that food is not necessarily the problem. Food isn't the problem. So talk to us. What is the problem? What is the problem?
That's the thing. When we keep, so the thing about this gut, right? Like it's called the second brain for so many reasons. One, it runs on its own through the enteric nervous system, through the vagus nerve. It gives off these action potentials where, like, you don't have to tell your heart to beat, your lung to breathe, your food to digest. It does it all on its own. That's one reason. Right. Two is that it controls every single thing about you. Everything, including your hormones, your moods, your skin, your hair, your nails, all these kind of things. And so when this is out of balance, you're going to start to see these symptoms, right? And so when it has our moods at play, when it has like our depression, anxiety, focus, all that kind of stuff, we have to also look at that. Because of this connection between the vagus nerve, we have to look at what is going on upstairs. Like, what is the anxiety? What is the depression? What is the brain fog? What's going on there? And how is that playing into our digestion? Because if we're not paying attention to that, and we're only looking at food, and then we're getting stressed out by food, and then we're wondering what happened, something I like to call is the food hangover. We're wondering why we can't digest it, even though it's healthy food. It's like, because you're stressed that it's not working. And if you're stressing, your blood flow is going to go to your survival organ. So it's going to go to your brain, it's going to go to your muscles, it's going to go to your heart. It's not going to go to digestion because your body thinks there's danger near. So you don't need to be digesting food if there's a saber-toothed tiger behind you. Like, you really don't have to be going to the bathroom right now. Like, that's not important. You do have to be able to run. Like, that's important.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at. And so the gut brain connection is a big one. So understanding the vagus nerve and understanding the nervous system in general, understanding that metabolic function plays a huge, huge role in this. So when we look at people and we think of like metabolism, we think of like someone that's itty bitty, and we're like, oh, they just have a like quick metabolism. And it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how the food is used in our body, right? So are you actually burning the food? And this is why you see a lot of people, they often have like cold hands or cold feet, or their hair is falling out, or they're very, very cranky. Like, they get very hangry very easily.
Right.
You're not using your food as fuel, because your body temperature should be going up. What else would it be? Stomach acid is a huge one. Like, just the world we live in nowadays, right? Like, it's stressful. Our food's different. Our environment's different. Like, there's blue lights everywhere all the time, especially working from home now. It's like, this all impacts our stomach acid. And what used to be like battery acid is now like apple cider vinegar. So you're seeing these rise in food sensitivities and all this kind of stuff. And this is why I like annoyingly preach about how it's not just food. Like, we got to stop focusing on that so much, because our body is this beautiful, beautiful thing that works together as a whole unit. And we have to be able to pull it all together so that we can actually get back to living normally.
I think that this is so smart, because what I'm finding more and more is, even when I'm talking to people who are coaching on weight loss or something not that would be quote unquote medically wrong with people, they are going to the brain as well. So in my protocol, it's mind, body, business. So we take care of the mind first. Those behavior changes are so important, and mindset changes are so important. So when you're working with a client and, they may only know, I can't poop or I'm pooping too much. Like, how do you help them make that switch so they recognize that it's much bigger than just the food that they're eating?
It takes time. I was honestly just writing a post because tomorrow is like National No Diet Day or something. And I was talking about undieting, where people are talking like, oh, go eat intuitive and like do all this stuff. And you're like, I would, and then, when you know something and then it's just like sitting on your shoulder and you can't unknow it. And you're like, I wish I didn't know that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it is when someone tells you, when you have been at war with your body for so long because you're in so much pain and someone's like, go eat a hamburger. You're
Yeah.
like, I really wish I could. Like,
Yeah.
trust me, I really, really wish I could. So you got to that's why it's nice to walk with someone that's been through it. Because it's not just some doctor being like, hey, go on low FODMAP, do this, do that, whatever. It's like, okay, so let's work through how are you feeling about actually reintroducing food? Like, I know you're really excited about it, but like, how do you actually feel? Like, are you kind of a little bit scared? Okay, cool. Let's talk through that. Let's walk through that so we understand how incorporating food, it's inch by inch. Most people, let's be honest, they take a mile because they're like, woo, I can have foods. I got permission. I'm so excited. And then they're like, ooh, I did not like that. Like instantly come back. And then they don't trust it again because they jump all in. And then they're like, oh, that was really, really, really hot. I don't like that. And then they come back and they're like, I'm on a detox. I'm doing this. And we're like, okay, no, that's fine. You tested the waters. We're good. Everyone does it. We get real excited about it. Let's do it inch by inch and really get to understand the knowledge behind it. Like, we can't just go into food and this whole thing and think we don't have to know things. And so as women we're teaching people, right? Like, we're teaching people how to eat and live and do life. And so it's, how do I teach you that food is safe? I teach you what your body's actually doing, right? Instead of just being like, eat this, it's like, no, you're eating this because of this, or you're doing this because of that. So that it becomes okay, so I'm learning to trust this, and then I can experiment.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because when someone gives you their protocol and it's just like, eat this, don't eat that, but they don't give you that message behind it, then that is going to help you while you're working with them, maybe. But what does long-term look like? And I think as folks who are coaching and or encouraging other people, we need to not be satisfied with getting those immediate results. We need to be able to pick up the phone 2 years from now and they're still doing really well because of the support that we provided them. So I appreciate that you said that, because it sounds as if you are using your method and your protocol so that people have long-term success and they think about it long-term.
Exactly. And that's the point, right? So I use something called the F.R.E.E method. So,
I was just going to ask you.
Yeah. So it's foundations, reprogram, exploring, and then we evolve your lifestyle. So it's something to come. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my clients, we're best friends, it's great, and this little sisterhood thing going on, but like, I want you to run free, right? And I want you to trust yourself. And people get frustrated with me because they're like, just tell, like, the master classes I do, like, you got like the Raven fans that love it, and then you get people of just like, what do I eat? And I'm like, that is such a disservice. And like, you can go on Dr. Google and they will answer that for you. But if that actually worked, we all wouldn't be here today. Like, we wouldn't be in this masterclass, right? Like, that's not how it works. And so it's really just evolving over time, and first bringing it back to yourself through the foundations. Like, what is working for you? Do you actually enjoy doing that? When did this all start? How can we tie that back in? As opposed to me being like, this is what's wrong. It's like, no. It's your health. Be the advocate for your health. Understand where your foundations are. Then the cool thing about this whole body and the bacteria that is controlling us and all that kind of stuff is it can be reprogrammed, just like in Pac-Man where he like eats the fruit and gets really big and what have you. It's like chomping through. That's the healthy bacteria. It can come in, it can eat that bad bacteria and poop it out and make this great healthy microbiome. And you're like, whoa, how does this happen? And that's when you move into exploring new food options, right? Yeah. Because now your digestive enzymes are back up, your stomach acid is a little back up, and you're like, okay, so I am safe to go explore. Maybe I can have some chicken wings. Maybe let's see how it goes. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, then it gets to be fun. And then we explore how we can evolve that into your lifestyle, because it's not just, oh, you come into my world for, say, the 4 weeks or the 8 weeks, whichever direction. It's no. Like, how do you keep doing this? Because as women, I'm sorry, our bodies do funky things like on the daily,
Yes. There's no 30-day cycle for us at all.
No, I'm like, it is a funky thing. But when you know what works, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
So I know what you're trying to tell me. This is
Right.
this is what I got to do today. Like that's the next right step.
Yeah, I love this. You're right. On the daily, we have funky changes. It's so funny. Like the first week when I start working with clients, I like give them something to clean out their kitchen, get the bad stuff out, and then I give them a poop chart, and they're like, "What the heck?" Because you gotta know what I know. We're talking about. I've been talking about poop all day. I'll just let you know. I was on someone else's podcast earlier today. That came up too, but it's so important. You need to understand the digestive system, what's going on in your body. And that's your love letter. That's the message that you're getting. So it could be a good love letter or a bad love letter. Tell people, so a lot of people may not have IBS, but they may be on that path to getting something like that. What are some things that we should be looking for, or maybe some clues or hints that we need to start to make some adjustments?
Yeah. So the first ones are always with digestion, right? Like, are you regularly pooping 30 minutes upon waking and without any stimulants, so without any coffee or anything like that? It should be 30 minutes upon waking, looks like a banana, easy, quick and out. So those people that are in the bathroom for like hours, yeah, that's not supposed to be happening unless you're like playing a video game like my boyfriend and I'm like, get out of the bathroom. And it should look like a banana, and it'll like float at the top for like a second and then it drops, like not even a second, but you don't want it to just like drop to the bottom instantly, like bad visual, but like chocolate pudding. You want it to like kind of float down. Or you want to have maximum 3 times a day. Right? Like you don't want to go beyond that. That's the other route where you see people going very, very often. And that's when you're not actually assimilating your nutrients. And this is when your body starts to get malnourished and you're missing key nutrients. And this is where you're going to start to see that pendulum start to swing and all of the other health issues come around that we want to ditch out. So that could be the first one, is with digestion. The other one I see a lot, brain fog. Huge indicator, huge indicator, or hormonal imbalances, huge indicators, like PCOS and like amenorrhea, like that's what I had, or just painful PMS symptoms. That's a big one. Skin. Your skin is your last organ of detoxification. So people that are struggling with that, that's a big one. Yes, we do the whole topical thing and you can go that route, but that's not actually getting to the root cause of like what organ isn't functioning optimally right now. And where is that bacteria that's overflowing, and how can we start to eliminate that? So it really is like, it's everything. Any type of issue you're having, you're like, okay, so what do I do with my gut then? Like, what are you trying to tell me?
Right. So those are really huge things to look at. And for those of you guys who are listening, if you go Google Bristol stool chart, you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about. It's not as gross as it's all in your mind. If you're thinking, you need to have that information. So the podcast will more than likely air right around the time people are starting to go on vacation. And I looked on Pinterest and I saw that you talked about supporting the gut while traveling. Tell us about that. What are some steps that we can take?
Yeah. So when you build a solid health routine, it comes with you on the go. Like that's not something you just like ditch, it's because you don't have to take a vacation from your health plan. So it starts at home, because you don't need a vacation from it. But when you're on vacation, we love to have a little bit more fun. We probably move a little bit more less, and we love a cocktail or two. So what you can do is you can bring with you some activated charcoal or bentonite clay, something like that, which will help bind to any excess toxins. These are just binders. It helps support your liver. I like to take them when I travel, just because I lived in Asia for like 6 years. So the places I was eating food, no, I wasn't too sure about that. But it helps to like any time of upset belly, anything like that. And also helps with drinking or any excess that your liver needs a little bit more support on. You take it there, but run it by your doctor, because it is binder and it does bind to other medications. So you need to keep that separate. Making sure you're drinking water. Like, it's so much easier when we're at home and it's like on our desk, and like behind my computer right now is like a giant pitcher, like so much easier. But bring a reusable, like large water bottle with you and just try to aim to get 3 of those a day, right? Like you're moving more, you're doing all this kind of stuff. A margarita does not count. Like you got to get the water in. I know, right? Like there's salt, there's water in it. There's ice cubes, duh. But you got to make sure that route. And then knowing how to build a plate is really, really powerful, because no matter where you are, you can do it. So I like to just focus on, like, is there quality protein sources? So like making sure that it is local, grass fed when it does come to that. Sometimes we can't win it. Don't overstress it so much. Like it's fine. It's
Right.
okay. And then you want to make sure you have a carb source and making sure that your vegetables are well cooked. We love those for women that are struggling with gut issues, right? Like people love those big salads. Like if you have IBS and gut issues, your belly does not like those. Please stay away from them. Like they're not a fan of it. And so when we can build it, like an ideal plate for me would be like, I love French fries right now. So like a side of French fries, because there's my carb and whatever. I'll deal with the polyunsaturated fats. I'll take my vitamin E supplement. It's fine. And then I'll get a type of fish, and I will usually ask for it either grilled or grilled often, because you're avoiding any of the polyunsaturated fats. So they won't be cooking in any vegetable oils or anything like that. It's just grilled on the thing. But if you are looking for something like your meat or something and you want it cooked in it, ask them if they can either do it with butter, so you're avoiding any of those like unnecessary oils, or just have them bake it or grill it, because that's how you would avoid it. And then some cooked greens, like whatever they got. I'm like, hello, can you put it on?
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much it. Like keeping it super simple, and then enjoy yourself. Like you're on vacation. Like that's the point.
Have fun. But I think that people hesitate in asking for something that's not on the menu. So my kids jokingly always say, Mom, I know that every time you go out to eat, they spit in your food because you ask for custom stuff. Is that you? Thank you.
I'm like in the screen. I'm like, me, like boyfriends of the past are always like, oh God. And now like my current partner is like, just look at the menu beforehand so you know what's on it, so you know what you want to custom order. I'm like, what? They have the food, so I'm just gonna pick from there, because at the end of the day, I am the customer, and 2, you have the ingredients. Just I'm not going crazy. It's just, I know what makes me feel good, and I'm an advocate for my health. If I want something to change, I'm not going to expect the world to just come to me and go, oh yeah, sure, you're going to feel better tomorrow. I'm like, no, I'm on vacation. I kind of want to be able to go hike in the morning or keep up with my partner or do something. I want to feel good. So I'm going to eat in a way that aligns with that.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. You are the customer. Ask for it. I'm like, I don't care. I'm asking for it. So they won't even go like to like even a Chipotle for me. They're like, you make them wash their hands first. You make them put stuff in separate bowls. I'm like, so? So I know that they touch the meat with their gloves and everything.
It's one of those things where you're just like, sit there and you're just like, and I've had clients do that. And they're like, oh, I asked and they said no. And I go, ooh, was that bad? And they go, no, I still got it. And I go, at least, and like, how did you feel after you asked? And they're like, oh, I felt pretty confident in that though. But they said no. Does everyone do that? And I go, no, hardly anyone says no. I don't know why they said no, but
just don't go back.
Yeah, like just don't go back to the place. Most people say yes.
I know. That's a path I like to go down because I'm all about the food, and then customizing is a wonderful thing. This has been so much fun. I know for a fact that people have learned things from this. Again, the subject keeps coming up, so I wanted to make sure that I was covering it so that my listeners could get some value from it. I have 2 more questions for you, though. The first question is, can you provide us with one takeaway, something that does not cost any money at all, and that anyone listening can do right away?
Tune into what your nutrition routine is. So what times do you eat? How often do you eat? What do you eat? Bring that in. Like if I called you tomorrow and I said, hey, what did you have for lunch? And you're like, no idea. That's a problem. And what time? Your body loves routine. And before you start pointing the finger at food, look at how you can take away some added stress by just getting on a routine. Same thing you do in the morning, you're on a morning routine and you got your nighttime routine. Figure out a nutrition routine so it doesn't have to guess when it's eating. It doesn't have to guess how much, or am I going to be eating the whole day, or am I going to only be eating one meal, and then wondering why we're bloated all the time. When we can get to a consistency, it just takes off one added stress that we, and like, that's an easy one. You could do that on the road. You could do that while you work. You could do that while you have kids. It's one of those things. It's like, that's the easiest one.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And just like you said, it makes your metabolism more steady. Inflammation isn't there. And then when sometimes we get that like 4-month pregnant look onto us. And it's a lot of times because our body's holding on because it doesn't know when it's going to get its next meal. So that's a very good piece of advice. The last question is, so the podcast is called The Switch. And every time I say, I don't know why I say that, but I want to know, what is your switch? What is the one thing that made you the woman that you are today?
It's the healing journey from the trauma of losing my mom, and then and then through that, I felt survivor's guilt for a long time. And I led a really bad path and got into really abusive, toxic relationships. And then there's just like one moment on the balcony where I decided I wanted to take responsibility. So I chose to have survival's responsibility instead of guilt. And I choose each day to be intentional, to create memories, to move forward, to make some kind of impact and leave a legacy in this world because of the series of healing through that trauma.
Wow, Laura, that is beautiful. I know your mom will be so proud of you.
Thank you
so much. Thank you for sharing your story. I enjoyed spending time with you today. Tell everyone how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, I'm most active over on Instagram. Like, you can just slide in my DMs. You'll probably get like a little voice note like, hi, from me. And that is Laura Martin _H2H, or you can just go to healingtohappy.com/Instagram and it'll take you there. And then you go into my bio and it just has step 1, step 2, step 3, like everything is there. All the free resources, all the paid programs, all the master classes, whatever is tickling your fancy, you can find it in there.
Perfect. And I have all of those links, so I'll make sure that I put them in the show notes. Thank you again for joining us. All right, everyone, here's to your health. I am so excited for you because you just finished another episode of The Switch, which means you are the fierce person I already knew you were. If you're ready to join an exclusive group of other fierce high performers like you, a group where you can bounce ideas off one another and ask questions, be sure to join our exclusive Facebook community. You can find the link below.